All right, guys, thank you once again for joining us on Art of the Assistant. And as you can tell, today's a little different. It's not a Zoom call. We are in person today, and I'm going to be being interviewed by David. So I think from different podcasts we've listened to, I was thinking about this morning, David, from Mortification of Spin, the Everyday Pastor. It's like the younger guy interviewing the older guy. So I've always tried to find the older guy to interview, but the reality is, I guess I'm the older guy. At least today I am, as I'm approaching almost 50, and we're getting there. So Dave is going to be interviewing. We're going to be talking about ministry today. And David, what's in store for today?
Yeah, so a little different than the normal. For those of you who have been listening for a while, you know, Pastor has written a book, Ministering from the Middle. So would encourage you to go to Amazon and pick that up if you have enjoyed this podcast, because you'll love the book, because it goes right in line with that. And as I read it, there was one chapter I thought, and there might be some more that we do. So if you like today's episode, definitely let us know in the comments or email in if you'd like to hear more like this, because we could totally do that if you want. But there's one chapter you wrote called The Art of Serving in Your Youth. And I thought that would be a great one for us to kind of talk about today. So I have some different questions that maybe come directly from what you wrote about. Some of them I was just thinking maybe we can expound upon a little more. So the first one, let's just kind of set the stage for us.
All right. And then let me say, I've not seen these questions.
Yeah.
So if I pause for a second, it's because I'm thinking about them.
Yes.
All
This
right.
is, I've thought all these through, but he has no idea what's coming.
I have no
So
idea.
first one is pretty easy though. So
All
when you write about serving in your youth, what do you mean by youth? Who were you picturing when you wrote that?
Yeah,
chapter?
I was picturing me. So I was going back to those first 5-10 years of ministry.
Okay.
And so that would be me from 22 to 32, right? In that time period.
Okay.
Young family. Yeah, just starting out, kind of the stages you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of our guys watching 3-4 kids in, and thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And that's kind of my mindset of youth. So I would say 30s, early 20s.
Nice. So when you're talking about serving, like how broad is that?
I mean, when we're looking like on that aspect, I would say especially with that chapter, they would apply to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any 25-year-old out there, whether they're assistant pastor, teaching a Sunday school class, or still getting a degree, I think a lot of the things in that chapter would apply to anybody, not just pastors.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we think about these different stages in our life and ministry, you hear a lot of people talk about how our 20s are spent building and learning. And you had a quote in there I really liked. You said, "Be open-minded in your learning, but closed-minded in your convictions." Can you kind of expound on what you mean by kind of being open-minded and then kind of being closed in convictions?
So like, I think with our internship program that we have, I love that. And especially guys, even like the one we have now, he seems very open-minded.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't come in like, I know everything.
Yeah.
I might have been that way at 22, but he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And he really has come in with an open mind, willing to learn, willing to see what God has for him. And just in the month he's been here, I've seen him taking some of the things we've said, he's been applying them, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be open-minded. So like, if we're going into a ministry, or even if I go back to a guy just starting in a church or something like that, we can't go in with the idea that we've got it all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be open-minded about those things. And then when it comes to our convictions, okay, this is who I am. This is what I am. And when I say a conviction, I think some of our listeners and I would have different definitions of that.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Where I've got a conviction on, I don't know, on a certain dress. Okay. I've got a conviction that I don't wear pants, and we're both wearing shorts.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I even went in with some conviction, maybe I said early in ministry, but I've learned over the years, those weren't convictions, those were preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those morph even in time. But there's certain things that we've got to take a stand on, and we know what we believe. And I think that would be especially with doctrine, and aspects of standing for the word of God. And those would be convictions. I would say that I just can't compromise.
Yeah, that's good. I've read it before, but I'm re-listening to it right now. Al Mohler's book, Conviction to Lead.
Oh yeah, it's great.
And I mean, that's the whole premise of the book is without certain things that you're not going to move on.
Yeah.
You can't really lead, and as pastors, we can't really minister or lead our churches
Right.
that
Right.
way.
Right.
Are there any things that you look back on you wish you had been more open-minded about?
That's a great question. I think maybe in certain ways I alienated myself from friends. Okay, so
Okay.
let's I'll use an illustration. So there was a church in the community I was in that was like blacklisted,
Okay.
and I don't even remember why. I don't know if it was because of music. I don't know if it was because their pastor played golf on Sunday sometimes and the assistant preached, but whatever. They were Baptist, but they were bad Baptist.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we had no association with them whatsoever at all. And they hired a youth pastor that I graduated from Pensacola with.
Okay.
But we had no association.
Mm.
They were blacklisted.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe one time we had coffee together and that was it, which was fine. But anyway, so then I had my heart attack and I'm at a conference in Columbus, Ohio. I'm talking 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I run into this youth pastor.
Yeah.
And he hugs me and starts crying. And he's like, Treg, I have prayed for you every day since your heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, here's a man, who whatever I was still loves me and we're still friends. And he was still praying for me.
Yeah.
And I was in that time period. Now, granted, I was under another ministry and they blacklisted it. I might have got fired had I associated, but I should have.
Yeah.
And shame on me for separating over something. I don't even know what it was now. And wishing, I'd have had that fellowship with him regardless. We still believe the same on the gospel. I'm sure we still believe the same on many, many, many things. Matter of fact, I know we do. And I shouldn't have been that way. So yeah, I wish I'd have been a little more friendly.
That's okay. That's interesting. That's good. If someone came to you and they said they were struggling with how to balance open-mindedness, conviction, because when we come out of college, out of seminary, we've been taught this is the way to do things.
Yeah.
And when we get into the real world, that almost never lines up perfectly.
Right.
So as these younger guys, as someone like me, as we're serving,
Mm-hmm.
what processes, how should we think about deciphering, okay, what can I learn from and not change on because it goes against my convictions, or where can I understand I actually should grow in my convictions in these ways? What kind of be a process?
I think one, if you're a pastor and you're going in, a youth pastor, and you're going into a ministry, where you are conviction wise, and so it would be great to make sure that ministry was the same.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you're not putting yourself in a position you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. So let's say that as a youth pastor, you are totally against boys and girls swimming together.
Yeah.
All right. And so you go into the church and you're interviewing for this position, and the pastor says, we always have this huge day at the lake, and we take our youth groups out and they swim and they're mixed bathing or whatever you want to call it. And you're like, man, I don't agree with this. Mm-hmm. And so, pastor, I'm just not a big fan of that. Well, this is just what we do. Now you've got a conviction on that. So you've got to determine, okay, if he has done this for 20 years, and he did it when he was a youth pastor at this church, and it's what they've always done, and you've got a strong conviction that you can't do that, right? You've got to figure that one out. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that just bothers me so much. I just don't think I'll be able to, this ministry isn't for me. Or are you going to say, well, I submit to the pastor's authority. This is what they do. This is just what I'm going to do. Yeah. So I think those are things you've got to figure out. And then open-mindedness would be coming in, and maybe there's some things that you don't 100% agree with, but you don't really necessarily have a problem with. Mm-hmm. And then you can be open-minded in that and see where you are. And then one day, if the Lord moves you on, you can say, man, I would never do that. Or, hey, I really thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's awesome. In your book, you talk about 5 things you wish you kind of had done when you were younger and serving in your youth? We don't have to talk
there's
about
probably
five.
more of those. Yeah,
But
more than five.
there were two that I thought maybe one I thought was be relevant for everybody, and another one that might be surprising to some people. But one you talked about education.
Mm-hmm.
How there are so many ways to further our education today.
Right.
If you were, serving in your youth, right now in 2025, where would you start? Where do you direct?
Yeah.
Where do you tell people to look?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for each person it is individually, where they are in life. And it's hard for me to say, this is what you should do. But let's say it's my son Coleman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's starting off in college. So what do I do with him? One, I think from right off the bat, I think a master's is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I've taught the guys, hey, why don't you get your master's? I'm so sick of school. I want to be done. That's fine. But if you go out into a ministry, let me encourage you to do it online.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just taking classes, now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
From 22 to 25, you're working on yours now that the baby's here. How's that going?
It's a lot harder.
It's a lot harder. Absolutely, it is. And then you got a couple more kids to that, more responsibility in ministry, which you're finding with the responsibility of ministry thing. And it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It really is tough. So bust it out. If you want to graduate and you want to be done with school and you don't want to stay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go to the same institution you got your undergrad in, that's okay. There's no problem with that. But I would look at options, especially online options.
Yeah.
You've been taught by the same guys for 4 years. Let's, expand it and maybe look somewhere else to go. I think, different GA programs, if you're going to stay, make it very enticing.
Yeah.
And so that master's route is great. When it comes to the MDiv, some guys might really disagree with me on this. I'm not sure the purpose of an MDiv at this point.
Yeah.
Where does the MDiv take me? I mean, if I'm going to teach one day a PhD, if I think that, but there's 100 PhDs out there looking for somewhere to teach. And with colleges going the way they're going, who knows where education is going to be 10 years from now. So like right now I'm working on my doctorate of ministry, and, Treg, why are you doing that? Because I see the future of education, especially with online training and things like that. And I want to be able to offer classes for guys to take just to take, like a WhatsApp class or something like that overseas.
Yeah.
And so guys in Kenya can be on this group. They can take Bible doctrines from me. And if there's a Dr. Treg Spicer in front of my name, earned doctorate, it goes a long way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now you get to spend a lot of time because you have a daughter in college, a son about to go into college in the fall. So you've spent a lot of time with college students the last few years. And we've had some conversations about things that you see across the country, really, as Christian colleges are preparing men. They're doing a good job in some areas, but we've talked about how formal education might be failing our young people in certain ways. So are there any ways for someone to get more of an informal education to kind of combat some of the areas that something like a master's or a seminary is not going to equip them for ministry, for life in that way? What are some things that they could do to kind of supplement that?
Man, I tell you, the more I'm seeing us implement this internship program, the more I'm believing in it.
Yeah.
And David, where that goes back to is the local church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So as a local church, we've taken a young man this summer and we've given him opportunities to preach more than 10 minutes, which he's never had.
Yeah.
and so we're progressing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Junior church, youth Sunday school, a Wednesday night service.
Yeah.
And he's progressed,
even
in 3 weeks,
absolutely.
From that first service that we recorded and I watched till Wednesday night, he hit it out of the park. So I think the local church, and that comes back on us as pastors and elders. We have got to be intentional, and really that's biblical,
right?
The Pauls to Timothy's and the Tituses and the John Marks and it's us pouring into that next generation so they're ready to go.
Yeah.
So like I sitting there, I got a little pride in me Wednesday night thinking, all right, here's this young man that I've just had a few weeks to pour into, but we're already seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be out of town preaching Sunday, and they're going to reap the benefit of that. So these are men that I've got preaching, in the next 5 days that I've been able to minister to. That, what a blessing for me as a pastor. And I just know that's how Paul felt with Timothy and Titus.
Right.
My son's in the faith going forward, and that's I can't think of it. So it goes back to the church, David, and these guys need to find pastors they can not only work under, but who will mentor them if they need it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've read a lot of books that have mentored me, but there's nothing like in-person one-on-one mentorship. And you just can't. You
pulling
can't
your sermon up
that
on the screen and analyzing it.
Right. Yeah. We can learn a lot as young people in ministry from these online sources like this podcast, but we're going to tell you, hey, go find a mentor, go pray about someone.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was maybe would be surprising to some people about things you'd wished you had done serving your youth was journaling more.
Yeah, for sure.
So kind of why, and then like really quick, like how should someone, like what's the purpose of that and how should they do it?
Yeah. So there is so much value in journaling, and from secularists to Christians, I think they'd have to, promote it in one way or the other. For me, I wake up in the morning and my mind starts, and it's just like all these things, and journaling gives me a way to put that all out. And so one, it's just for me personally. Two, it's going back and reminding you of things that you've forgotten. How God ministered here. Man, I had no idea I was thinking that even at that time period. I journaled when I was in college some, and then I've journaled here. I've got 1.5 books sitting on my shelf that I've journaled through. The last year, I haven't journaled as much as I wish I would have, but with writing the book and getting my doctorate, I get up and I'm writing, but it's not journaling, it's papers and things like that. But I think that, as soon as all that's done, I'll go right back into journaling. And from me teaching Sunday school, I'm a huge fan of the journaling Bibles. Yeah. And Crossway's put those out. I love those. Yeah, and I think that if you're like, man, I'm not much with sharing my thoughts, or, then just get the Bible, journal the Bible. What God has spoken to you, and do it. But I think there's great benefit in taking your thoughts and writing them out. And one, it helps clear your mind. And two, I think subconsciously it just puts you the right direction. What was the study in Harvard that I forget? I think it was I forget which book it was now. But the students that wrote out clear-cut goals as sophomores in college, they were 75% more likely to fulfill those goals than those who just had goals in their minds. Oh, that's good. So it's just something about writing things down that does something for us.
And I totally agree with what you said about reminding us kind of what we were thinking, because I've been trying to, kind of since we moved here, journal some of the kind of extremes, some of the highs and the lows of just life and everything. And at the end of every year, I'll go back and just kind of skim through it. And it's funny to see how dramatic I was about something. That was not a big deal at all. Like, why did I freak out about that? Yeah. Or just then to see, like, man, God was really good at that, or God provided in a way that we didn't expect. So,
I mean, reading my journal up to 3 days before my heart attack, or about dumb stuff that kids did that was hilarious that I had forgotten about, but it's cool to go back and read. It's or like I'll see a sermon that'll say illustration about one of my kids doing this. I'm like, I don't even remember what that was. I wish I'd have wrote it out.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So those are kind of some things you wish you had done more of when you were serving your youth. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things you're glad you did do. And the first big one that you talk about is family.
Yeah.
So for guys serving in their youth, I mean, there's this, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably trying to be the best assistant or best pastor you can be. And so with that, there's this hustle culture where it's like, you just need to, sell your soul to the church. Right. But that's probably not the best way to do it. So when you write about family, what are some of the great things that you love that you did?
Yeah, I mean, one, your soul does not belong to the church, and I never want to see that. Yeah. But what the greatest joy I think that I can have right now as a pastor and in the position that I am in is my kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't wake up in the morning and grab my phone looking to see if I got a text message from a youth group member that I had 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did, I'd be like, what do they want?
Mm-hmm.
But I do wake up in the morning saying, hey, I wonder if Cammie texted me today.
Yeah.
I wonder what team won at camp last night. And if it was the opposite, where, oh no, what if I failed as a father and I didn't have that, that'd be a terrible thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so my joy now is just my kids, but that doesn't start as teenagers.
Right. Yeah.
That starts when they're young, and it's building that relationship with them and it's serving with them. And I mean, I've got pictures of Cammie so little, she fit in the camera bag on one of our college and career outings, but our kids were with us in ministry.
Yeah.
They just went with us. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're excelling where they are today, because every time we took teens to camp, my kids went to camp.
Yeah.
I didn't farm them off with somebody else or with grandma and grandpa. They were with us. They've seen all the skits at the Wilds 100 times. They could do them. They know the songs. And so they can work camp, and they know it because they've seen it and they've been around it.
That's great. That's great. Now, something that's interesting, and I think we'll really know how this plays out probably in about 5 or 10 years, but I was listening to the briefing this morning by Al Mohler, and he's
great podcast.
Yeah, it's very good. He's talking this morning. He mentioned how this high school graduating class is the largest in U.S. history.
Oh wow!
But this is the cliff that everyone's been dreading, and because of declining birth rates, it's going to get smaller and smaller.
Right.
And so that mindset of, I think, delaying having children and pushing that off and feeling like we can't financially, I think that's eventually going to really creep into the church. Now, thankfully, our church is not that way right now. We're having a baby boom.
Yeah.
But I imagine there might be some guys listening who are kind of hearing that narrative in the culture right now. Would you have any encouragement, or what would you say to someone who came to you and was like, I don't know if we should have kids. I don't know if we, if it would be responsible for us to. How would you counsel someone who is maybe hearing all of this going on around them and is trying to figure it out?
I mean, we had Cammie at 27. We had 4 kids in 5 years. I'm not saying that's for everybody. Matter of fact, that wasn't even our plan. It just kind of happened. But I'm going to be 50 years old and an empty nester and starting grandkids. And that's pretty young.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be in consider of the generation in which we're in, I'm going to be a young empty nester. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think it's going to be pretty cool to be being able to invest in them, my kids as adults, my grandkids. And I think that's awesome. But I think, David, you could address it too. One, a baby doesn't cost you anything but time.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my kids didn't start costing me until they became teenagers and started eating. And then obviously little bigger presents, cell phone bills, insurance.
Yeah.
They're costly as they get older. But man, when you're little, you're thinking, man, I can't afford kids, or I couldn't have a couple. It's not that much. It's time. And the other thing is too, young in ministry, if you're a young pastor too, and you're thinking that kids are great. I've told missionaries all the time, you're having a hard time getting support, have a baby. A baby will bring the support in, and it'll bring people into your church too, because they love seeing life. People love seeing young families. Hey man, I love your kids. You're out here at the park, or, my kids playing baseball. And then next thing you know, I've got families in the church. I've got kids in the Christian school because they're seeing my kids, they're meeting me. And it's just an enhancement to ministry.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were definitely some of those questions in our minds when we were praying about having a family, starting a family, and God is really just taking care of us in so many ways. We expect, and I mean, especially right when he was first born. I mean, people were giving us diapers and all kinds. Our church here has really, we've really felt loved, and just this generous outpouring in that way, and so. I guess
that's a special thing. I mean, it's a special thing for me to see you guys. I don't know, we know that a pastor isn't necessarily a higher calling, but you are up front. And so when you have that baby it's just it's
Yeah,
cool. It's a special thing.
It's been really neat. Now we've already touched on it some, so you don't have to say much about it. But one thing that you said you were glad you did was find mentors.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, man, I don't have a mentor in my life, what is the first thing they should do to go try to find one?
Okay, so I think it was Kerry Schmidt said this. He would email someone and say, may I have just 30 minutes of your time? I've got a list of questions I want to ask you, and I promise I'll make the most of it for the kingdom. And you approach someone like that,
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to go a long way.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be able to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mentoring so many now. Would I be able to take on 3 more guys to do that? No, not necessarily. And now, there's coaching that's available and things like that. But take advantage of any opportunity you have. So I remember we had a guy come in and speaking in a conference that I just really enjoyed. And I said, hey, can we grab lunch? And just like to pick your brain on a couple things. And I mean, he was jotting notes down on a napkin that I still remember. And so when Faith called me, I called him. And the only reason I felt comfortable calling him and asking him, because he'd been here and preached like 6 months prior.
Okay.
And so I called him, but the reason I felt like I could is because we had such a good lunch together. And say, hey, this was the youth pastor at such and such church. And if you remember, we had lunch together. Oh yeah, I remember that. Say, hey, I've got this opportunity. What do you think? And so
Cool.
I think that even if it's a guest speaker coming in, so we've got Jim Tillotson coming in from Faith Baptist. He's an awesome man, and I love him. And if we had a young guy here, be like, hey, Trey, he's coming in for the weekend. Can I grab him for lunch or dinner? Can I have coffee with him one day? You should, So yeah, something like that. I think if you're feeling like you need that little extra, you're not getting it from your pastor. Take advantage of those guys that are in or coming through, or hey, a church across town is having so-and-so. Email them ahead of time. Say, could you carve out a few, an hour or so with me for coffee on this morning? And that guy will say, well, let me check with the pastor, make sure that's okay. But they'll do that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Last one, and this is going to be, if you're not a pastor, this won't necessarily apply to you as much, but preaching. What did you talk about preaching frequently? What did that do for you in your ministry?
Oh
today?
man, I preached all the time. And it makes, if I can say this, it makes coming up, preparing sermons easier, but it also just gives you that comfort level of being able to read a room, read an audience, and know how to preach. So early on in ministry, I was at 2, maybe 3 nursing homes a week. If you can preach in a nursing home, you can preach anywhere.
Yeah.
Any opportunity I had to preach at another church, like, you're missing our church picnic Sunday to preach in Washington, PA, but you should do that because that's giving you another opportunity, another audience, another church to see, another way to see how they do things. And every opportunity is a learning experience. So walking away thinking, man, I bombed that, and I've preached at different places where I have bombed it. I did a marriage retreat one time. It was horrible. But I'd never done one before. So even going in, I wasn't even sure how to handle it. So then I bombed it. And then the Wild says, hey, would you come preach for a family conference? I was ready for the family conference because of taking the opportunity to speak at a family. So, those people have no idea. They don't even remember who their speaker was. They weren't there for that. But I learned from it. And so I think those experiences and taking all those experiences. So like when I, this week I stepped into a funeral home to preach a funeral to a family I do not know. And I look at the audience, I think, oh my goodness. Then I've got 20 minutes to rewrite a 20-minute sermon, and I can do that.
Yeah.
Because I've preached to audiences like that before. I've been in situations like that before, but that's all from experience. I couldn't have done that maybe even 10 years ago, but now no problem.
Yeah, guys, no matter what area of ministry you're in, whether, whatever it is, just start practicing, start doing it. It's okay if it's not great.
You just have to do it.
Bomb it. Yeah.
And you're going to, yes. So
well, good
preach.
stuff. Well, Pastor, thanks for taking some time to kind of
That's
talk
really good.
through this.
Yeah.
Again, guys, if you want to know more, that was only just like a little bit from that chapter. So go ahead and get your copy of Ministering from the Middle, and hope that can be a blessing to you. I think we're also going to link, if you want the rest of this chapter, you can go ahead and click on the link down below, and it'll direct you to that. So if you really enjoyed it, or if you want